ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeff Gutchess. I'm the attorney for the gentlemen standing behind me, Bill Fuller and Martin Pania of the Barlington Group. As you may recall, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Pania have been the subject of targeting and selective enforcement by Commissioner Carollo. I am the counsel for them in the federal lawsuit they have filed against Commissioner Carollo, charging him with a First Amendment retaliation violation for his political vendetta. You may recall on February 14th, the Commissioner got the Commission to establish a task force to investigate code violations and alleged selective enforcement. 90% of the properties on the task force were the properties of these two gentlemen. They have started their efforts. Mr. Fuller and Mr. Pania have been cooperating, letting the city come in, investigate, look for any code violations, as is the standard procedure to cooperate with the city. As part of this process, we decided to look at the Commissioner's properties, and we were somewhat startled by what we found. And that is that on the Commissioner's home, over the past 17 years, he has built a number of unsafe structures without any permits whatsoever and without receiving any violations from the city whatsoever. We understand that it is the duty of the citizens to bring these issues to the attention of the city, and specifically the Code Enforcement Department, and we would like to ask or demand that the city rectify these issues by inspecting the Commissioner's properties inside and out, requiring the Commissioner to tear down the unsafe structures and to rebuild them with the proper permits, and to pay the fines that are applicable for the code violations, including cutting down a historic banyan tree. And with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Fuller and let him explain the findings in more detail.
Thank you. Good morning, my name is Bill Fuller, small business owner and property owner in Little Havana. I'm here today with my business partners Martin Pania and Zach Bush, and my attorneys and friends and family. As many of you are aware, for the past 18 months, myself and my partners have been the target of a well-orchestrated and calculated attack on our personal characters, our business, and our livelihoods at the behest of Commissioner Joe Carollo. He has conducted a campaign of slander and defamation and has held code violation witch hunts at commission hearings. He has usurped the authority of the city manager and directed the city, with the assistance of the city attorney, to send scores of code enforcement and building officials to our businesses and our properties at all hours of the day and night, at least 50 in the last 18 months. He himself was caught hiding behind the bushes of ball and chain at 9:30 at night, trying to incite and provoke our neighbors to issue complaints against us. He has maintained publicly for months that he has no personal issue with us and that he is not selectively attacking us, but rather fulfilling his civic duties as commissioner to uphold the city code and charter and provide a public service by calling us out for code violations. My grandmother used to tell me, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Now you would think that Joe Carollo, after months of attacking us with code violations, would himself have always complied with the city code and have clean history with no violations. You would even expect the commissioner would hold himself to a higher standard. How could he possibly be so brazen to think that no one would notice if he engaged in work without a permit on his properties? Yet as it turns out, besides being a known racist and a domestic abuser, Joe Carollo is also a seasoned building and code violator. Today we are unmasking Joe Carollo the fraud. After conducting our own research and investigation, we have concluded that Joe Carollo himself has never pulled a building permit, and has broken several city codes and regulations. In March of last year, he told a staff member of ours, "I am the law." And today we are illustrating to you exactly how Joe Carollo believes he's above the law. We paid for a complete microfilm search of his residence, 3230 Morris Lane, a property which is just a few blocks away from here in Coconut Grove. This is a property that he purchased in January of 2001. The microfilm requested included every plan and permit that has ever been submitted to the City of Miami, and it revealed the following. Since his purchase in 2001, he has never, or anyone else, has ever submitted for a building permit or submitted for plans to be reviewed. What we know by conducting our investigation online through Google Street View with satellite imagery and aerial view is that he has engaged in several projects without securing permits. More so, he has built several unsafe structures on his properties that include the following. An illegal and unsafe entrance with a mature bougainvillea growing through it. You can see rooftop tiles that are separating from the membrane, ready to fall. An illegal and unsafe rooftop deck, which looks like it's in a state of disrepair. Here you can see balconies. It looks like there might actually be ongoing work on the property without permits. And just for the record, all of these documentations on the rear of these illustrate all of the permits and plans that exist prior to his ownership in 2001. It's extensive. This one's from 1955. Others are from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. None exist after his ownership. This is a favorite of mine. Thanks to Google Street View, they have a historic imagery search that you can go back and date and look for this. This is actually a tool that the City of Miami Building Department uses themselves. 3 illegal, unsafe carport structures that anyone with a minimal understanding of the South Florida Building Code knows would never qualify for a building permit due to its inability to hold up during a hurricane. Here's photographic evidence from January 2008 where it's either in disrepair or in a state of construction. Here it's illustrated in 2009 that shows actually new construction material for his carport. And in March 2018, properly painted to suggest that maybe it's been there for all of these years. Now, Mr. Carollo is going to tell you today that he might have hired a contractor that did this and he wasn't aware of paperwork. That's actually not an excuse in the City of Miami. If there is no record in the microfilm department of the City of Miami, he must go in and process through the due process and secure permits and bring this into compliance. Finally, this is the most egregious of all of what we found on his property. In June of 2009, meanwhile, Mr. Carollo lives in Coconut Grove. In June 2009, this is a mature native banyan tree growing on his property. We estimate with over 40 years of age. In March of 2015, we see his first effort that he has cut the tree down in a way that is going to stunt or possibly kill the growth of this tree. Finally, in March of 2018, sadly, the tree is now shown that it is dead. And if you pass the property today, you will see that it is totally dead. This particular violation in City of Miami is extremely expensive. He will need to mitigate by planting trees of a similar canopy and caliper and will be subject to tens of thousands of dollars of fines. Now, this is only what we can see from the outside. We are confident, based on reports from eyewitnesses, that he has also performed work inside his property. He should be subjected to the same full inspection standard of his property that we have relentlessly been subjected to. After this meeting, the evidence we have presented will be submitted to the appropriate departments of the City of Miami, including the offices of the City Manager, Building Director, Unsafe Structure, Code Compliance, and all of the other commissioners, to alert them as to how Joe Carollo has deceived them in his pursuit of upholding the law. Today's press conference was necessary to illustrate the disparity and the injustice that we have been subjected to in the hands of a corrupt public official. Just 2 weeks ago, Carollo said, "In America, we are all supposed to be treated equal. The rich and famous have to be treated the same way as everyone else." Clearly, in his mind, this does not apply to him. To date, his selective enforcement and attacks have cost our businesses millions of dollars. Today, the only defense he has ever had, which is the only one, is that he's upholding the law, is a total farce. Today confirms what most people have always known, is that Joe Carollo is officially a fraud. And my business partner, Martin Pinilla, has a few words to say in Spanish.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Martín Pinilla. Soy socio con el señor Bill Fuller y Zach Bush. Somos dueños de propiedades y negocios en la ciudad de Miami. Hoy quiero hablarles del comisionado Carollo. El señor Carollo se presenta como el protector y el guardián de la seguridad pública del Distrito 3. Y en nombre de las conocidas violaciones del código, el comisionado se ha dirigido personalmente a nuestras propiedades y negocios con acusaciones o comentarios muy insidiosos. Después de realizar una investigación de las propiedades del señor Carollo, nos queda claro que cuando se trata de violaciones en el código, el señor Carollo siente que las reglas no son para él. Estamos muy sorprendidos por la disparidad y la injusticia de un sistema que permite a un funcionario como el señor Carollo abusar de él para su propio beneficio, mientras perjudicando a los negocios y las propiedades de todos aquellos que no estamos de acuerdo con sus acciones y sus ideas. Muchas gracias.
We'll open up for questions. Questions?
Bill?
Yes.
Why not go to the city already with your findings?
Well, the city is going to have findings today, except that the city has shown itself not to always be transparent. And so we felt it was better for the public to recognize this, because the next step in this process is going to be the idea of making sure that the city actually investigates these allegations and pursues them with the proper violations. So we really will need the public support to put that pressure on the city to make sure that the law is applicable to all parties, not just us.
Is there anything that you found that indicates the commissioner might have gotten some sort of favorable treatment from code enforcement or permits?
Well, certainly this is a gentleman that has been telling us for months that we are the beneficiaries of selective protectionism.
Have you found anything that suggests he has been made a favor?
Not anything other than we did find 2 violations related to garbage that happened over the 20-year period, but when the investigator got to the property, he found that there was no violation. That's the only public evidence that shows, after all of our research on the property. We have those documents as well. They're actually in your paperwork.
Hemos escuchado antes el señor Fuller que él alega que el comisionado Carollo está ensañado con ustedes, contra sus propiedades, contra todo lo que ustedes están haciendo en la pequeña Habana. ¿Cree que esto prueba de que no se trata de código, de violaciones de código en seriamente?
El señor Carollo tiene una vendetta con nosotros y ha tratado de varias formas de atacarnos, y la única forma que él encontró es atacarlo a través del código. Usted puede ir a cualquier edificio en la ciudad de Miami, incluyendo el edificio de City Hall, y encontrar violaciones de código. En el caso de la casa del señor Carollo, tenemos el mismo ejemplo, donde la ciudad no ha mandado el código, pero existen violaciones de código.
Fuera de la demanda que ustedes tienen contra Carollo, donde prueban que hay un funcionario, un inspector que fue enviado por él, o por lo menos le comentó algo sobre las propiedades del señor Fuller. Ustedes tienen más evidencia sobre el hecho de que él esté detrás del resto de acciones para mandar funcionarios a revisar cada una de las propiedades del señor Fuller en estas últimas semanas.
El 14 de febrero en la comisión, él presentó su propia investigación sobre varias propiedades, donde 95% de esas propiedades son propiedades y negocios que nos pertenecen a nosotros. En ese momento, él le dio dirección a los demás comisionados para asignar un grupo, un task force, para seguir la investigación de esas propiedades. No sé si eso le contesta la pregunta.
Could you update us on the status of the lawsuit, of the federal lawsuit?
I think Jeff, is Jeff around? Jeff, he wants to question the status of the lawsuit.
The lawsuit's ongoing. We're in the middle of the discovery process. We're probably going to be amending the complaint to add additional claims based upon the most recent retaliation efforts. But it's been set for trial in December of this year, and we'll be working hard from now to then.
It was said that Carollo has a vendetta against your company. What would be any logical reason for that vendetta against your company in particular? What kind of motive is there behind this?
Well, certainly we believe very strongly that there's a political vendetta at stake, but there could be more that will come out of the federal investigation through the court system, but there could be other things that is driving him to do this. It could be just personal, and it could just be, there might be something more criminal about it. I just don't know.
Have any of the properties that your company has done conflicted with any properties he's tried to make or own?
Not that I'm aware of, but I mean, he has regularly gone after and targeted our assets, including the Escuelas and other businesses and properties regularly. It's well documented over the last year and a half.
What we're trying to understand is, you said political, and that's pretty broad stroke. What I'm asking is an explanation. Why is he's basically picking on you guys, but we want to know why is he picking on you by doing a task force and all that? Can you explain that a little bit better?
I think it's clear. He wants to inflict, Carollo wants to inflict maximum punishment on our businesses. Ultimately, he has told individuals that we've heard from that he wants to have our businesses shut down and run us out of Carollo. This is a neighborhood that we have dedicated our livelihood to in its redevelopment, and it's a shame that we're even here wasting our time dealing with these matters. This is a gentleman in the city should be applauding us for the economic investment, time investment we've made over the last 15 years in that neighborhood.
Yeah, and as we've discussed many times, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Pinilla had supported LBDO in the runoff election, and that's what started it all. And Carollo has a long-known history of punishing people who oppose him. Many people were afraid to oppose him in the election for that reason, and his enforcement, his selective enforcement and vendetta against these two individuals is sure to scare away anybody in the future who dares to oppose him.
Good. Hopefully we can get Mr. Carollo to say a good statement for you guys as well. I mean, we're all interested in hearing what he has to say. Thank you for your